Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. My name is Nolan Pillay, and I am your host for today. Now, the reason why we share these inspirational stories or information out there is because there's so many people that can resonate with what we have, but they don't know how to access this information. So we open up a show like this to share with as many people as possible. And today, it's our honor to speak to Charles J. Reed, all the way from Texas. Charles is the president, CEO of GetPayroll, a certified public accountant, a U.S. tax court practitioner, Internal Revenue Service Advisory Council, and U.S. Marine Corps surgeon. He has also spent 25 years as a Rotary Club member. Now, in his new book, The Payroll Book, it's a guide for small businesses and startups. Charles reveals how to avoid the heavy hand of the IRS. And if you don't know by now what IRS is, it's actually Internal Revenue Services. He has also been on Fox Business, Business News Daily, Buzz TV Texas, and Dallas Innovates. Welcome, Charles. So good to have you on the show today.
Nolan, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks, Charles. Charles, just to get started, tell our listeners a bit about you in about 2 minutes or so.
Sure. I'm a Midwestern boy. I grew up in Iowa. Went to high school, graduated from high school, didn't want to go to college. Worked for a while and then joined the United States Marine Corps. Spent 4 years in the service, including a combat tour in Vietnam. Wow. Came back and was stationed in Kansas City, met and married my wife. Best decision I ever made. She was 10 years older than I was and had 5 children when I married her. I claim insanity, but we were married for 45 years before she passed. So it was a good marriage. Wow. After military service, I went to college, got my degrees, got my CPA, went to work in the corporate world, spent 15 years in corporate America. Realized I was never going to get to where I wanted to be because I didn't have the political skills to do so. Unwilling to stab people in the back and toss them off the ladder. So Ruth and I started our own business some 30 years ago.
Awesome.
And here we are.
Well done on that. I like what you said, the best decision ever. So many of us need to remember that, because when you, especially with a marriage, the moment you choose to say it's the best decision ever, then things get better. If you go on about saying, no, it's not a good decision, not a good idea, it's never going to be okay. It's a fact of life.
You're right. Marriage is a partnership. Yeah. And it's communication and compromise, and it takes work to be successful. And again, mine wasn't perfect. If there's a gentleman who says he has a perfect marriage, beware, he lies about other things. No, it was a great marriage, and I miss her terribly. But I can't do anything about that. It was the best decision I ever made in my life, bar none.
No, absolutely. And she's with us now as well. Anyway, she's our guardian now as well. So, wow, you talk about marriage. This weekend, I just celebrated my 30 years as well. And you're right. It's never a straight line. There's always ups and downs. And you got to work at it. That's the key. Work at it and work on yourself as well. That's
yes. I found that somewhere after 20 years, somewhere between 20 and 25 years, that love had really deepened. And as you know, being married 30 years, the communication became much simpler. So I would shrug my shoulders and she'd start saying something. I said, I didn't say a word. She said, you didn't have to.
Body language spoke.
Body language spoke, and you finish each other's sentences. And we basically quit arguing because we'd had them all.
Yeah.
And we'd already figured out who's going to win that argument. So we'd get into one and I'd start laughing and she'd start laughing because we'd already settled this one years ago.
That's beautiful. That's the joys of marriage, really. That is the joy. Awesome. No, thank you for sharing that, Charles. It's always good to hear from you as well and learn from you as well. So thank you for that.
Crossing the United States to his native South Africa, Nolan continues to push barriers and inspire people to inspire themselves. And you could be next. Join Nolan's 7-day online groundbreaking program called Obstacles Make Me Stronger, aimed at teaching you how to overcome any obstacles you may face, break barriers, be innovative, and take control of your life. For more information, check out Obstacles Make Me Stronger, now on Udemy.
Now let's get directly into it. You know, COVID has been with us for a while, and why I say it's with us is because people are still talking the COVID language, right? Everyone's talking about it as well. Now, from your point of view, regarding COVID tax provisions, how does one use them?
Well, a number of them have expired. Some are still in place. And, you know, the governments gave away a lot of money, a lot of it for free. No, it's out of the taxpayer's pocket, obviously, including our own. But the remaining one is really the ERTC, which is the Employee Retention Tax Credit. And if you are eligible for it, you need to apply for it for your business and get that free money. It's out there. There's, you know, whether I agree with the program or not, it's not the point. The point is the government has offered free money, and if you qualify, frankly, you ought to take it.
Absolutely. Indeed. And, you know, a lot of people don't know about things like this as well. So they don't really use the opportunity to go and take it or apply for it as well. So is there like a communication that goes out to people, or?
It's in the news, but your best bet is to have a competent CPA.
Okay.
That you talk to on a regular basis, and he will advise you. We advised all of our clients about the ERTC and ran them all through the screening to see if they qualified. Several of them did. Some of them received funds well into the six figures, and was very helpful to them because of COVID. Many others had done better throughout the COVID shutdown and so on. We're in Texas. It was not, the government did not interfere as badly in business in Texas as it did in other parts of the country. They're still pushing masks in California and New York, and we haven't had a mask mandate in Texas for 18 months or more. Nobody wears a mask anymore here. So it's just, so a lot of our companies, a lot of our clients did better off than other parts of the country because of the government.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're right. It's about how one leads as well, right? So that's quite important, because when once you're stuck in this COVID mindset, you know, one can be in fear forever, because that's exactly what happens as well. So, wow. Okay. So, yeah,
I have some history with pandemics. My grandmother on my father's side died in the flu epidemic of 17. My father was 3 years old at the time. So that's part of our family lore. But to be constantly frightened of something that is totally endemic, unpreventable, to try and utilize prophylactics that don't work.
Yeah.
Masks don't work. We all know that. Social distancing is unproven and untested. There's no science that says it works. So most of it is a joke. I mean, life is a risk. I've had COVID, and I have some comorbidities. I have high blood pressure, but I take care of myself. I sleep well. I eat well. I see my doctor twice a year. And COVID for me, luckily, and it's killed other people. Don't misunderstand me. For me, it was a couple of days of flu-like symptoms, and then 4 more days of boredom while I quarantined myself. Okay, so it's different for everyone, and you can't live in fear. You can't live that way. We're not made to live that way. We're social animals. Yeah. We can't isolate from everybody all the time forever. COVID's going to be here, and it's going to be here forever, just like the flu is.
Yeah, that's it.
That's life.
And you're right. We need that human connection, and that's one thing we cannot take away from each other. We do need each other, and face to face.
Absolutely.
That's
face to face.
Yeah. I was unfortunate as well with COVID because I was hit pretty bad with it. 13 days in the intensive care unit. But, that didn't stop me or didn't put fear in me because I knew my mind was much more stronger. And I reckon if fear had taken over me, I wouldn't be chatting to you today. So, to the listeners out there, apart from the COVID tax provisions that you can apply for, just think about fear as something you're just creating in your mind, because that's what it is, right? And that's what people are putting in there. You never know.
Winston Churchill said, Roosevelt, excuse me. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can't live in fear. And I'm sorry I interrupted you. I apologize.
No worries at all. So, for the listeners, take advantage of the COVID tax provisions. I'm sure it's still around, and get yourself a little educated. If you need to get in touch with Charles as well. I'm sure he'll be ever happy to help you to discuss
Absolutely
more with you as well. So talking about that, I know you mentioned about the triple loan forgiveness, and from what I saw, it's the Paycheck Protection Program. Is that true? And how does one maximize that for loan forgiveness?
Well, the PPP was set up to, payroll protection for people who were during the pandemic, during the shutdown. The program is now over. You can't get money anymore. But if you haven't gotten it forgiven, there's procedures to. Your lender should have a website for you to go to and enter in all the data that you need to. And the loan is forgiven. It's not taxable. It originally was going to be taxable because Congress wrote it very poorly, but they later revamped it. So it just becomes free money if you qualified and got it. And you can get it now. If you don't apply to get it forgiven, it'll have to be repaid. And that's kind of silly to repay it if you don't have to.
Yeah.
It's a gift from the government. Take it.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're taking from
us. You paid for
it. So yeah, we should use the opportunity to take back when we can, right?
Absolutely.
That's important as well. So people don't realize that they have these protection programs in place as well. And even if you're working for a company, your company takes this out for you, right?
Yes, it's for companies that have payroll. It's for businesses that have payroll. It was designed to help with having to have people not work and keep them on the payroll and pay them and so on. It was designed to help with that. And it did. A lot of people got it, billions of dollars. And if you applied for it and got it, make sure you apply for forgiveness and get it forgiven. Yeah. Now, there was a lot of fraud, and there are a lot of people that took advantage of it. And the IRS and the FBI and so on are going after those people slowly but surely. They're putting them in jail and getting money paid back on a regular basis now. Anytime you throw out, tens of billions of dollars of free money, there's going to be people who are going to take advantage of it and try to steal.
Absolutely.
That's just human. That's human nature.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're right. We see it a lot as well. People, it's greed. That's what it is. It's greed. And I can't understand why one does that, because you get so much money. What are you going to do with it? I mean, if you got billions in your account, going back to COVID didn't discriminate on how much money you had in your bank account either, right? If it was the time, it was your time. Yeah.
When God punches your ticket, it's punched.
That's it. Yeah. No, exactly. We have to be prepared for it.
Yes.
So Charles, tell me, if I just get an IRS notice, what should I do next? What would be my steps?
Well, the first thing to do is read it and understand it. If you don't understand what it is, why it is, talk to somebody who can explain it to you. Don't ignore it. Don't just put it on the shelf and forget about it. The IRS will not. Communicate with the Internal Revenue Service. If they've made a mistake, explain it to them, provide the proof of it, and send it to them and talk to them. Now, I don't normally recommend clients talk to the IRS because they get emotional about it and get upset. It's easier to let a professional, but if you don't want to bring in a professional, make sure you respond to every communication you get from the IRS. If you get a letter and you send back all the information and proof to show that they were wrong, and a month later you get another letter saying the same thing again, send all the proof another time. Always respond, because there are letters that if you don't respond at some point in time, you may lose certain rights. As long as you're talking to them and appealing it, you can protect these. If you ignore it, you may encounter some deadlines that you have to fulfill. And if you don't, you lose the ability to appeal. So always communicate over and over and over. And remember, dealing with the IRS is a whole series of no's followed by a single yes.
Yeah.
So never quit appealing, because in all probability, sooner or later, you're going to find somebody that's going to go, okay, we'll go for that. And then you say thank you and go away.
Yeah. True.
Don't bitch about all the people that said no. Just say thank you and go on your way. when you get what you want. Don't kvetch. So, but it's communication. Now, if you screwed up, fix it. It happens. If you didn't make a deposit, if you didn't file something, and if you didn't file something and they say we're going to penalize you, ask for an abatement. Ask for that penalty to be reversed. In many cases, it can be. A lot of them will get reversed the first time if you just ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is say, hey, will you abate this for me? I screwed up. One of the things the IRS won't tell you is that they cannot penalize you for a simple mistake. They can only penalize you for gross negligence. However, they're the ones that initially define what gross negligence is. And to them, everything is gross negligence. Okay.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's up to the courts, which is why I became a U.S. tax court practitioner, so I can represent my clients in U.S. tax court. So appeal. Don't ever give up. Now, if it's $10, just pay it.
Yeah.
Discretion is the better part of valor. It's not worth fighting for $10. But if it's an important amount of money to you, fight it and fight it and fight it. I've had them take as long as 9 years to resolve. We had a client that they tried to penalize $95,000, and we went through all the appeals. I finally got to the director of field operations, who wouldn't return my calls. I called the assistant chief counsel, the chief of appeals, in DC, and talked to her, and she said, I'll have him call you. He called me. We got into it. We got it looked at again, and the whole thing got abated. $95,000 penalty. Took 9 years.
He was.
But it can happen. So don't ever give up.
Yeah. So some key points you mentioned in it, Charles. One of it for me was that, if me as an individual person, if I don't know how to speak the language of a tax person, I shouldn't really approach it on my own, right? Because it becomes difficult. So rather go to a professional and get them to work with it, because that's very vital. Because many times the IRS will take advantage over the person who cannot speak the same language as a tax person. So
they will. The analogy I use is, when I grew up, Pele was the world's best soccer player. Okay? But if you take Pele, as wonderful an athlete as he is, and you put him in a New York Yankees uniform at second base, he's lost. He doesn't know the rules. He doesn't know the game. He doesn't know the plays. He doesn't know the players. Pick up the ball with your hands. He's totally lost. So you take a businessman who's successful, who has clients that love him, who does good business and makes money, and you say, now go fight the IRS. He's Pele at second base. He's absolutely out of his ballpark. He doesn't know what to do. So, hire Alex Rodriguez, okay? Hire a specialist. Hire somebody that's really good at this to go fight it for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because it just makes it easy as well, and it's not a drawn out thing as well. So rather go to the professional. So to all the listeners out there, if you are having any issues like this as well, reach out to Charles or anyone in your area, wherever you feel comfortable with. Just reach out. The point is seek professional advice and experience. You can't do this. And I guess this works with with tax throughout the world, right? Because in South Africa, we have something called SARS, which is the South African Revenue Services. I don't know whether we had this COVID tax provision in place. I didn't really look at it, but now I will go and do some research on it and understand a bit more about it. But the point is, don't ignore that tax letter as well. You got to
never. Yeah, and you have chartered accountants in South Africa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, talk to a chartered accountant. In the U.S., it's CPAs. In the rest of the English-speaking world, is chartered accountants.
Yes.
Talk to a professional. Ask them. Pay them for an hour's time and get their advice. It's cheap it may be very cheap at the price. If there's a program that can get you free money or save you on taxes or save you going forward, that time you spend, that little bit you spend on his time, will return itself 100-fold.
Yeah.
We're normally a profit center to our clients, not a cost center. We make them money. We save them more money in terms of penalties and interest and problems and time and money. We make them money, so we like that.
Nice. I like that. And that's a win-win situation as well. So, it's not about just you, it's about the client as well. I like that. That's a value add that a lot of people need to get into as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing I wanted to check with you is, what's the top 5 tips to avoid employment tax penalties?
Okay. Arithmetic. That's the first thing. Make sure all your numbers are right. Make sure they all add up, they all multiply, whatever. You get those forms and you take this line and that line, and you add this, and you subtract that, and you take a percentage of that. Make sure all the arithmetic is right. That is the biggest source of errors in the tax system in the U.S. is arithmetic errors. The next thing is know the law. Okay? Know what forms you have to file. Know when you have to file them. Know what money you have to deposit and when you have to deposit it. Because most of the penalties are made up from either not filing or late filing, not depositing or late depositing. So if you cover filing and depositing timely with accurate numbers, you've eliminated the vast majority of penalties. It's literally that simple.
Yeah. Well, so
and that's why you hire me, because I make sure it happens.
Yeah. So follow the rules, right? It's follow the simple rules, because no matter what, there's one person we can't get away from, is the tax man.
You're never going to get away from him. He's never going to forget about you. He's never going to go, oh, he's a nice guy, I'm going to let him off. It ain't going to happen. The long arm of the law is going to come get you.
No, true. Sound advice there. Thank you so much for that, Charles. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure the listeners will appreciate it as well. So, again, like Charles was saying, go to a professional. We all are professionals in our fields. You wouldn't find me as an IT professional trying to become a doctor now, right? I need to get a doctor to work on me. Likewise, I'm not a tax professional. I need to go to somebody like Charles. It's a simple that as well.
No, I had an engineer as a client one time, and he said to me, Charles, why am I paying you? I can do what you do. And I said to him, Steve, absolutely. Go back to the university, spend 2 years of taking all the courses that I took, and then spend 20 years doing this work, and you could do exactly what I do. And you know, Steve, if I go back to university and spend 2 years taking engineering courses and 20 years in your field, I can do exactly what you can do too.
Yeah.
Now, what do you want to do? You want to pay me to do your tax return, or you want to go back to university? So he laughed and he wrote the check.
But it's good that you made him understand that you just did not become who you are overnight. It took time. And that's why you're a professional in your field. That's why you're skilled. You know, so people need to understand that as well. And we can't be the jack of all trades anyway, right? We can be good at certain things as well.
We cannot do everything in this world. There was a time thousands of years ago that, you know, you did everything, but that time is long past. I don't build my own house. I don't build my own car. I don't sew my own clothes.
Yeah.
I don't even mow my own lawn anymore. I hire somebody to do it. I hire specialists and outsource things all the time. We all do. I don't grow my own food. I buy it at the grocery store. Okay. I have some garden out back, but most of my food comes from the grocery store. I don't grow my own grapes and make my own wine. You know, I don't malt my own barley and make my own Scotch whiskey either. So, you know, I don't have time. But if you need tax returns done or you need payroll done, call me. I can take care of it.
Yeah. Indeed, it's valid as well in this century, because a lot of people think they can do so many things alone, and we cannot work in this silo environment. You got to collaborate, and collaboration means collaborate by having a tax person, having people to do your books or anything, having a person to do your marketing or your sales, etc. We can't do it all on our own. You got to collaborate with others if you are not good in all of these other fields as well. So
and you can't be.
Yeah. No, we won't, because it takes just too much of time. Rather focus on what you're good at and get the experts to do what they're good at as well. And that's the key to having this as well. Charles, so my business is fairly new as well, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of new businesses coming up in the US, throughout the world, etc. But let's talk more about the US, because you're based there as well. What would new businesses really need to do to be tax compliant?
Follow the rules. Don't pay people under the table. Classify your employees properly as employees or contractors. Follow the law. Pay your taxes. Really just be a good citizen. Do what you're supposed to do. Yeah, I don't agree with all the tax laws. I think some of them are rather silly and counterproductive. But, and I write my congressman and complain. But I don't do civil disobedience and not pay the taxes. Yeah. That's just going to get me ruined. They'll take my business and put me in jail. So, yeah, follow the rules, be smart about it. And beyond that, one of the catchphrases, one of the gems of wisdom that I love for new businesses, and I stole it from Bill Gates. Mm-hmm. People will overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. Mm. Start a new business. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a 100-yard dash. It's miles and weeks and months and years of work. And you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish over time.
Yeah. It's so true and valid as well, because especially with entrepreneurs that are just coming into this field, they need to realize they're not going to be overnight millionaires. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes time.
It does.
You just need to persevere, persist as well. So another golden nugget for entrepreneurs out there as well from Charles is, don't just expect to be an overnight billionaire. It doesn't work like that.
Crossing the United States to his native South Africa, Nolan continues to push barriers and inspire people to inspire themselves. And you could be next. Join Nolan's 7-day online groundbreaking program called Obstacles Make Me Stronger, aimed at teaching you how to overcome any obstacles you may face, break barriers, be innovative, and take control of your life. For more information, check out Obstacles Make Me Stronger, now on Udemy.
And one of the things I learned the hard way was a gift from a friend that turned my business around some 25 years ago. You have to learn how to work on your business, not in your business. Entrepreneurs like you, like me, like a lot of us, basically create a job, a way to make a living. We can do something faster, better, cheaper than other people. So we go into business because we think we have a marketable product. And most of the time we do.
Mm.
But if you want to become wealthy and you want to grow a business, you don't do it by doing the work. You do it by growing the business.
Indeed.
Hiring people, putting systems in place. You know, if you go to McDonald's or if you want a McDonald's franchise, there's a book and it covers everything from when you open in the morning to when you close in the evening. It covers everything, how everything's cooked, how everything's set up, how everything's ordered, how the bathrooms are cleaned, how uniforms are. Everything is there. It's a turnkey business. There's a procedure and a policy for everything. And by doing that, they make that business repeatable. There's McDonald's franchises all over the world making huge amounts of money. If you want your business to succeed, you need to be able to do that work over and over and over again successfully using other people. So you have to have procedures and policies and manuals and how it's done, checklists, and so on. And doing that allows you to expand your business because there's only 24 hours in a day.
True.
And you can only work about 12 or 14 of them. Well, when those are all full, how do you grow your business? You have somebody else who use their hours and you pay them a little less than what they generate. And that what they generate over what their cost is your profit. And then you hire a second person and a third and a fourth and a fifth and a 10th and a 20th. And all of a sudden you're a very rich man using other people's labor and your capital and your creation, and you have a business, but you have to work on the business. You can't just do the work. You have to hire people. You have to put systems in place. You have to make it into a real business.
And by doing that as well, you're serving people, right? By hiring people, creating more employment, which means you are doing your service towards humanity as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. You're giving them a way to make a living, provide for their families, their children, put food on their table, be productive. That's all good societal things. And you're doing that. And you should be rewarded for that. And that's what profit is. So that's not greed. That's capitalism. And it's not exploitation. And socialism doesn't work. We all know that. So it's the way the world works. It's how you get ahead. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You take risks. A lot of entrepreneurs fail, maybe fail several times before they succeed. Some never succeed. So you have risk, and risk should be rewarded if you're successful. So you've got to work on your business and build it. You've got to delegate responsibility and authority. You've got to hire people and train them. And you have to have systems in place to make it work and be repeatable. That's working on your business.
True. Yeah, and it allows you that freedom. As an entrepreneur, we always want that freedom of time. And when you do something like this, you do get that freedom of time because you don't have to be in your business all the time. Yeah.
Sometimes you just find yourself supervising people and going great guns anyway. But
Yeah.
it does give you some freedom to choose when you work. The work never goes away. You just you get just to choose when you do it.
That's a business owner, right? That's a business owner.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Charles. It's really great. You had a statement that says why PEOs suck, and PEOs, I got it as professional employer organizations. Is that right?
Okay,
right?
PEOs are an outcome of staff leasing from years ago, and staff leasing was a way to avoid taxes illegally, and a number of people in the staff leasing industry went to jail over it, and they changed their name because of the reputation, and they became PEOs. PEOs are very expensive. They, in my opinion, produce very little value for what they charge. And we take potential clients out of PEOs on a regular basis because they're overpaying. I have never seen a PEO organization, a client with a PEO that is not overcharged a minimum of $1,000 per employee per year over what they could do elsewhere.
Wow.
PEOs are sold. They're not bought. They're sold to people. They're very expensive, and they produce very little that the entrepreneur or the small business or the business can't do themselves.
Yeah.
Much cheaper.
And that could be a deterrent, right, for the small business as well, because to pay that amount when you're really not making money as a small business, you're just starting out as well.
Exactly. It's very expensive, and it's not worth what they charge for it. They say lots of things and it never really happens. It's technically it's not a scam. They do some things for a price. Yeah. But from my point of view, it's a very expensive price for very little. It's like paying $100 for a McDonald's hamburger that the guy next to you pays $2.49 for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's legal. If you want to pay $100 for it, that's fine. But I don't recommend it.
Such a great example, and I must share this with you. Recently, I went to my doctor, and it's like twice a year, and they always overcharge. They charge you a consultation fee, and over and above that, they charge you another fee just for whatever. They put you on a treadmill, they put these things on your chest, and they monitor, and they charge you like twice the amount of your consultation fee. And I said to them, but why is the consultation fee not included in this bigger amount? And I tried to take it up with the medical company, and the medical company told me straight to my face, a doctor can charge what they want. We got no jurisdiction over that. That's what they really believe that they should be paid. So likewise, I guess with the PEOs as well, right? They push their luck and say, well, I will charge this, like it or not.
Yeah, and you may find, if you look around, a doctor that's not quite as greedy, that can give you just as good a care for a lesser price. That's called competition. And one of the problems with the medical industry in this country is there's no real competition. The insurance companies set the prices, and so that's you're going to pay the same whether you go to a good one or a bad one.
Yeah.
And they don't compete on price. They don't compete on service. I don't know. I'm not sure what they compete on, but it's a very non-competitive industry. In a competitive industry, you have a choice. If you don't want to buy a McDonald's hamburger, there's a Wendy's, there's a Burger King, there's a Whataburger, there's a Five Guys, there's In-N-Out. You've got all kinds of choices, and choices drive prices down and keep them down.
Yeah.
Okay. And if they would increase the number of medical schools and the number of doctors, the cost of medicine would fall dramatically. And if insurance companies weren't controlling it under government supervision, hospitalizations would go down, service fees would go down. It's a nightmare. I spent 8 years heavily involved in it with my wife being ill and disabled, and I feel sorry for the sick person that's trying to go through it by themselves and doesn't have somebody to help them or advocate for them. It's a real it's a real jungle.
It's so true. It's so valid because in South Africa, we have a thing called medical savings for the year. So once that is finished, then you pay from your own pocket. Now, what about the guy that's an average guy out there as well that needs to pay this huge amounts because he needs the treatment as well? So this is where the unfairness comes in a bit as well, because we are talking about yes, we understand you need to earn some money, but don't be greedy. That's the key. Be human about it as well.
I find that providing good service at a good price is a far better business model than trying to gouge a few clients.
Yeah.
That's just that may be me, and there's people that make a living off of, there's companies that sell very, very expensive products, whether it be Tiffany's or somebody else that they have the brand and they have the name and they can sell things for a huge price because you get the blue box from Tiffany's.
Yeah.
But I don't buy from them. I look for good product at a good price, and if the price isn't good enough, I'll look someplace else, and I'll normally find it.
Yeah, it's there. We just need to look a little bit more. So we're almost coming to the end now as well. So to the listeners, so many key nuggets that we're getting from Charles as well. You can just feel the experience, and he's so willing to share as well. So make sure if you are struggling, or if you know somebody that needs assistance, get in touch with Charles. He's always willing to help. Charles, we all want to kind of abate a penalty in a way, right? So what are the 7 steps to force the IRS to abate a penalty?
Okay, and we've gone through some of this, but first of all, you communicate, you talk to them, you present your case, you appeal, you appeal to higher and higher levels, and if need be, you take it to tax court in the U.S. You can file a tax court petition as a taxpayer for $60, and if you're broke, you can do it for free. So it's a matter of following through each step along the way to make sure that you don't miss anything, that you appeal it, and keep going with it. That's literally how it goes.
Wow. So just keep at it to the listeners. Just don't stop. Appeal, follow the processes, and just carry on. But most importantly, just make sure you follow the rules and don't ignore that notice.
Absolutely.
Because when you will incur penalties when you start ignoring it as well, monthly penalties or whatever the case may be. So always stick. So Charles, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We really do appreciate your guidance and inspiration as well. So just for the listeners out there as well, give us some tips, a few tips that they could use, and also how can they get in contact with you? I will be sharing your contact details for all your contact information at the end of the podcast interview. But how can they get in touch with you immediately, and some tips for them?
Well, GetPayroll, GetPayroll.com. We're on the net. We're all over the net. My personal email is cjr@GetPayroll. So that's how to get a hold of us. My newest book is the Payroll Book, a guide for small business and startups. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever fine books are sold. It's available on the web. It's available as a Kindle book as well. So that's how to find us. As far as tips, dealing with the IRS is a whole series of no's followed by a single yes. But I'll give them one other tip for business. If they're in business, and this is one I've used for many, many years, there's never a traffic jam on the extra mile. Go the extra mile for your customers, your clients, your employees, your wife. Go that extra mile. You'll be rewarded immensely by going farther than your competitors, their other boyfriends, whatever, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish by going that extra mile, because you're by yourself. You're other people aren't out there with you. You're by yourself. You stand out.
I love that. I actually live by going the extra mile as well, and I learned it from the book Think and Grow Rich.
Yes,
you speak so much
Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, and people don't realize, by going the extra mile, you're actually opening up doors for yourself. You're not
Absolutely.
So it's so great to end on that note as well. Go the extra mile, to all the listeners as well. So thank you once again to everyone for listening to us. We will have this on YouTube. So if you have any comments for Charles, put in your comment onto the YouTube channel. We'll get even the questions, we'll get it to Charles and ask him to answer these for you as well. And thank you, Charles, for inspiring us once again. And if you like this episode, please go and share it with as many friends and family as well. Even if you have people across the globe, get in touch with Charles and go on to GetPayroll.com and understand a bit more about what Charles does and the services he brings to you as well. So thank you once again for listening to us. I will share Charles's details at the bottom of this. My name is Nolan Pillay, and I'm your host for today on Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. Thank you, and have an awesome morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.